When a man will cry, a woman smiles. The shoes have walked 1,000 miles. The sticks of stone can break her bones. She welcomes all her friends and foes. When her spirit's down, she has no time to frown. A warrior is a woman, woman, woman. A warrior is a woman, woman. Woman, a savior is a woman, woman, woman. A warrior is a woman, woman, woman. A savior is a woman, bountiful, wonderful is her frame of mind, beautiful, colorful, style is one of a kind. The womanhood and the motherhood are her strength and pride. Her warmth and grace she cannot hide. The wonders of a woman, woman, woman. A warrior is a woman, woman, woman. Savior is a woman, woman, woman. A warrior is a woman, woman, woman. A savior is a woman, yeah, 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 yeah. Woman, woman, yeah. Give me some tissue, Tyler. It feels cold and you feel all alone.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is the Motivator Show alongside Lady Chelsea. Good morning, Lady Chelsea.
Good morning. How are you?
Huh?
How are you?
I'm well, and yourself? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
You're looking glorious, if I may say
thank
so,
you.
Huh? Oh, well, it's a grey day over London.
Yeah.
That's what I can say, huh? A grey day over London. But today, this will be a truly powerful show. Really powerful. Yeah. Let's commence. Let's get started. First of all, always remember to appreciate the previous presenter, Diane King, is a stalwart who brought us from night to day. Well done, Diane King. Remembering, of course, those stalwarts of the community, the founders of this station, and of course, first, above others, is of course Chief Pakumbabai, the Elder Erekruti, the Abu Ratata, Empress Shanice, and of course Nico, the most royal, one of the longest standing presenters here on the station for more than 35 years. Okay? That's legacy for you. And we hope, Lady Chelsea, young people like yourself will continue the good works of stations such as Galaxy. We sincerely hope so. And of course, this station is intended to de-brainwash those who've been brainwashed by right-wing imperialist propaganda. What do I mean by that? To suggest that our peoples, African peoples, do not have history other than the beginning of that enslavement time. Huh? We need to combat such nonsense. We must do that for your sake and our children's sake as well. It's so important, though, that we continue with this show, because this show will have some meaningful outcomes. Of course, and we should compliment our last week's show, John Lennon. What a name, huh?
Yeah.
And his innovation, a social change maker. We want to transfer this sustainable technology, energy technology, from those where it's in abundance to places where it needs to be, in the Caribbean and of course across Africa and beyond. We are bathed in sun, ideal for solar power, huh?
Yeah.
So I hope those who listened last week will contribute to helping us to transfer this technology to places like the Caribbean, like South America, like Africa, where we are bathed in sunlight. Ideal places for solar panels and other sustainable energy resources. So I hope that others will continue to follow through. Talk is cheap, as you know. Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
But I want to take a moment, if I may. I want to remind us of those crucial health messages. Okay? And you may have seen very recently, Lady Chelsea, a lecture given by Professor Hilary Beckles, the Vice Chancellor of the Universities of the West Indies, where he identified diabetes, hypertension to be endemic amongst Caribbean peoples. But these are fundamentally, of course, lifestyle diseases. Okay, and of course, when you had generations where you've had to eat high energy food just to stay alive, and it then becomes a part of your cuisine, to change those habits takes maybe a generation or two. Let's remember that it's so important to remember this, so important. So I want to give out those health messages. Health messages are crucial. I've learned in my time in public life that, in fact, if we don't give out those positive messages, believe it or not, people don't hear them. You haven't given them out.
Yeah.
We have a public duty to have a public duty to ensure those health messages are given out. It's not dissimilar to the technology that underwrites this station, more than 35 years. And in the initial credit I mentioned those who founded the station, but it would not have been possible. It would not have been possible, as indeed said, a previous presenter, it's not Africa's natural resources that is its wealth. It's a technology that you derive from those natural resources. That's where the real wealth exists. Yeah. So it's cheaply exported from Africa, but then comes back to Africa as advanced technologies, expensive technologies. Similarly here at this station, I mentioned those who founded the station, but of course it would not have been possible without the engineers. Yeah. Those who are trained in technology. Now we're able to transmit via digital radio, and now, of course, through social media. And of course, this program, in addition to it being transmitted via the station's website, afiwistation.com, galaxyafiwi.com. It's also transmitted via Zeno radio, which is a app you can obtain via the app stores, Zeno Radio, Z-E-N-O, and you can find Galaxy Afiwi on Zeno Radio. And of course, this particular program is being transmitted live via Facebook and YouTube under the Demotivator Show, D-E-M-O-T-I-V-I-O-R, and of course, show. Okay, so that's where you could find us. So let me now continue with these crucial health messages. Remember, and consider how much salt you're taking into your bodies each day. Remember, and consider how much sugar you're ingesting into your bodies each day. Remember, and consider the amount of fats you are ingesting, usually through meat and other products, each day. Remember, consider how much you're taking in and how it accumulates over time, and the obvious health deficit excessive amount of salt and sugar and fats has on your bodies. Consider the amount of water you consume each day. And of course, here in places like Britain and others, much of our food are deficient in water. Those processed foods are deficient in water. So it's crucial that we ensure we drink at least a litre or two of water per day, slightly more depending upon your size. Mm-hmm. Remember, it's crucial for you to increase the amounts of fruits and vegetables, because these are actually our staples. Yeah, this is what our bodies were built upon. So consider how much you're consuming each day. You know where the deficits are, you know where the positives are. Water is critical. But going alongside that, of course, exercise is equally as important. We must exercise our bodies every day, as well as our minds, of course. But exercising our bodies to the point at which we sweat is an important part of maintaining good general physical health. So vitally important. And I'm pleased with the feedback I've been receiving over these months that I've been doing these programs with yourself, Lady Chelsea, that the community are hearing these messages, because they can see the effect it has on their bodies when you start to take care of your bodies. Huh? Is that true?
That's good.
Yeah.
It's working. Yeah.
And of course, I have somewhere nearby my weight. Unfortunately,
oh, your weight's up.
My weight somewhere, so there's somewhere around here. My weight's 31. Oh, let me.
How's it been?
I didn't quite get to the point of sweating, but I can feel it in my arms right now. That's for sure. Okay. Later on, I go feel one. You know?
Okay, that's good then. Okay.
Okay. But of course, most crucially, we've got to remember to take care of our mental and spiritual health. To give ourselves those moments in which we're able simply to be quiet and just be with ourselves. To allow all the troubles, all the tribulations, all the distractions that surround us just to go away for 5-10 minutes a day, just to meditate and allow yourself just to settle, to be quiet, undisturbed. Okay. If in doubt, seek help from a trained professional. If in doubt, this is the advice I give to you. Seek out a trained professional. Go to your GP, usually is our first port of call. Don't listen to people on the internet or anything like that. You go to someone you trust to give you sound health advice. That's the best advice I can give to you, as I'm not a health professional. If in doubt. But most certainly, the exercising, being careful what foods you ingest and the quantities of those other foods which are clearly the source of these maladies of the diabetes, hypertension, and some cancers. We must watch out the excessive amount of sugar and salt and fats that we ingest into our body. If we could bring those down to the bare minimum, the additional salt, the additional fat, the additional sugars that we are ingesting, that would have a dramatic impact of our long-term physical health. And exercising is so critical. And of course, drinking the right amount of water are critical components to promoting good, healthy lifestyles. But if in doubt, seek out the help and advice of a trained professional, okay? Someone who you trust. Okay. Is that enough, or should I continue, Lady Chelsea?
I think you covered everything.
Wonderful.
It was good.
It's so important. The feedback I've received has been very, very positive.
Okay, well, that's good.
Thank you. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move forward. I want to move forward. I want to go to yourself in a moment, but I just want to give recognition. I spoke to our elder early this week, Elder Norma, inspired elder. I believe we all should have an elder to whom we have complete trust and confidence in, to whom we can speak about any matter. And we find that our elders are ideally placed to provide the advice and guidance if we are in doubt. Okay. And Elder Norma, of course, as remarked, one, she is fully vaccinated. She had both jabs now. She's now physically fit and able.
Good.
Two, of course, what she make a comment on all the usual news going on at the moment, and she has a lot to say. We may well hear from her later on, I'm sure. Okay. But three, what is quite clear, and she points out to me that she's showing and demonstrating to her grandchildren how to cook our food, being able to cook our food appropriately is an important part of the transfer of knowledge about ourselves, our culture and traditions, as it were. She says this is so vital for good mental health. You must be able to refer to deep roots, and our roots are majestic roots. And she said through cooking, both boys and girls learn and appreciate the beauty and craftsmanship, womanship that is our cuisine, which is diverse, complex, and incredibly nice. Huh?
Yeah.
She laughed at me.
I agree.
Elder Norma, thank you for your advice and guidance. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to you now, Lady Chelsea. Do you have your questions? This wonderful young man, Malachi,
I do.
who at 14 wrote his first book. And we continue to offer £25 as a prize. Each young person who gets it right, and a signed copy. I haven't got them yet, but a signed copy of Malachi's book.
Okay.
Over to you, Lady Chelsea.
Yeah, so that is the prize. This is what we're doing this for. And so I'm going to do the 2 questions. So we'll have 1 question for under 10s and 1 question for 11 to 16-year-olds.
Okay,
so
now I want you to continue to project your voice, Lady Josie.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. So yeah, we're going to have 2 questions, 1 for the under 10s and 1 for the 11 to 16-year-olds. So I'm going to play those now.
Okay. This is the wonders of technology. When you're ready.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay, let me as loud as possible.
There you go.
Cool there. Okay, so this is the first question, and this question is for under 10s.
Question 4. What does Kemet mean?
So that is, what does Kemet mean?
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I can now answer that question myself. I completed the research.
Oh, good. Were you surprised with the answer?
That was the under 10.
No? Okay, yeah. Okay.
What does Kemet mean? Okay.
Okay, so this is for 11 to 16-year-olds.
11 to 16, okay.
Question 6. How many siblings did Tutankhamun have?
Oh, we didn't quite hear that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Question 6. How many siblings did Tutankhamun have?
Was that any better?
Yeah.
How many siblings did Tutankhamun have?
Right, how many siblings?
Yeah.
I thought I should know this already, but now, for those young people who are listening who believe they have the answer, I'm now going to give out the number, and the number to call the studio, it's 0203 481 5240. I repeat, 0203 481 5240, and you then be asked to enter a PIN number, and the PIN number is 3707 33 43 97, followed by the # sign, which is a vertical and horizontal line. I'll give out the PIN number once more: 3707 33 43 97, followed by the # sign, the vertical and horizontal line. Okay, and of course that number and PIN number will be used later on when we invite callers to listeners to call in once we've spoken to our guests. Okay, so I wonder if we'll get any takers this week. We're determined, huh?
Mm-hmm.
We never give up. Huh? That's
of course, yeah,
absolutely. We are utterly and completely relentless. Okay, so we really want young people to call in. We know it's early, but we know those, particularly those who are going to Saturday schools and so on, will be up by now. I know often Saturday schools started around 9 o'clock or 9:30. And I know, but I've had a few children myself, and at this time we were up. Okay, we were definitely up. Okay, so Lady Charles, I'm going to ask you to give out the number this time. Give it one more time.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so the number is 020 348 152 40, and then the PIN is 3707 33 43 97, followed by the # key.
Very good, very good. And those of you who are viewing this program via YouTube or Facebook at the Motivator Show, you'll see on screen the studio telephone number, if in doubt. And those of you who are in receipt of the usual media that we send out for this program, the studio number is also quoted on that media, just so you all know. Okay, so we hope that we get a few takers, but pending that happening, I think I want to just go on further and prepare the way for our guest. Our guest has an interesting profile. He, like me, is a father. we both are passionate when it comes to seeking to develop our children. We're both roughly the same age, apparently. So we both started out, I know, we both started out in public life in much the same time, okay? And in fact, I've had reason during my 25 years as a school governor to encourage some parents and young people to visit our guest project, which we'll come on to later on, you know? But I like the name of the project, and I don't mind giving it out now, Generating Genius.
Okay.
Hey, what a powerful name. But
Yeah.
I recall those years ago, when I heard that name, I was overwhelmed and said, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like
that. Sound good.
I want to encourage anyone who would speak in such positive terms about the prospect for our children. Yeah, so, oh yeah. Okay. But equally, of course, the issues raised by our guest in more contemporary times are challenging. And I believe that if there's anything I've learned about our heritage as African peoples, you know, you could say black, but black is really a political term. We are African peoples, you know, and within the term Africa, there are many ethnicities, yeah, as there are here on the British Isles. After all, Britain is a union of countries, yeah, dominated, of course, by the English, who've raided, robbed, and controlled the land. Okay, but you know that's history, isn't it? That's history, isn't it? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, but notwithstanding the Welsh, the Scotch, and of course the Irish, okay, who make up this union which we call Britain. Okay, it is made up of ethnicities, you know, and of course even within England there are ethnicities. You know, go to Cornwall and they will tell you that they founded the first parliament that we recognise here today. For example, you go to parts of northwest or indeed northwest England, and they have very distinctive sort of cultural traits. And indeed, if you go to Liverpool, I recall my very first visit, I had some difficulty understanding your average.
I would as well.
So, you know, we are all a mixture of different family groupings, which we don't call ethnicities, okay? But we are but one race. Okay? It's really important. And that's part of the de-brainwashing that we conduct here. We are but one race, yeah? We're many ethnicities, yeah, but we are but one race. Otherwise, it would not be possible for a woman from China to have a child for a person in London, you know? There you go, yeah? And vice versa, and so on, you know? If we were not one race, a single species, okay? So that part is de-brainwashing. Again, we want to we want to ensure that we use appropriate language. We're not using sort of tropes of a time long gone. Yeah, very, very important. And here we're able to control this narrative, and the narrative that is designed to empower the listeners. Really, very important, very important. So this is paving the way for our guest, and I know that there are many issues that surround our guest, not least how we interact with British society, and indeed our role as African peoples in this society. You know. I use the term African peoples deliberately, so even though I was actually born in the Caribbean, but our ancestors were transported to the Caribbean, you know, and that part of the history should never be forgotten. Yeah, and so whilst I'm an African ethnicity from the Caribbean, okay. All of my life, virtually most of my life, I've lived here. Yeah, okay. And of course, I have a very English name in traditional speak, and therefore I still carry the legacy of Britain's imperial past through our names. An important message to remember, but it should not hold us back.
Yeah.
And I know that if I look at the English, Scottish, Welsh and Irish communities here, and how they view people from overseas, of course, their views have been clouded, of course, by the propaganda that the aristocracy have promoted, you know. And I think a really good example of this, you know, Lady Chelsea, is the more recent declarations by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission.
Yeah.
Really important one. It had been admitted by them that going back to the last 2 world wars, hundreds of thousands, possibly more than 350,000 Commonwealth or Empire soldiers. Can you imagine, from Africa, part of Asia and other places, who fought alongside British soldiers? Their death, their heroism was not commemorated.
Yeah.
More than 80 years. Yeah. And what has happened, of course, is that a narrative has been able to be developed by some members of the English, Scottish, Welsh and Irish communities, that indeed our communities, African communities, didn't actually contribute to the war, didn't give our lives in fighting
in the same way.
Nazis.
Yeah.
And it is interesting listening very carefully to how this has been explained. And the term used is pervasive racism.
Okay, never heard of that.
Yeah. Okay. I must say, I paused when I heard that term being used, you know. But what I'm pleased is that the current government of the day has risen to that challenge and has committed itself to righting that particular wrong.
Okay.
So I want to commend the government of the day in honouring those fallen heroes from Africa, the Caribbean, from Asia, who fought alongside British soldiers to fight Nazism. Okay. And let's hope that there are lessons that are learned by that particular experience, you know.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's Claire Horton, who is the head of the Commission, War Graves Commission, okay, who's undertaking to ensure that the wrong will be remedied. And the names of those fallen soldiers will be etched into war memorials here in London and cities across this country and beyond, I hope.
Yeah, that's really good.
So I commend them. Them for that action. I commend them. And let's hope that there are lessons learned, you know. But I recall being a child and being told that our people's English people fought for us.
Yeah.
Because of the propaganda that they had received, information they've received by those who are in positions of power. Conspired that this lie was perpetrated for many decades. You know? Very, very important anyway. I thought I did mention that because our guests will be able to speak to such injustices, and our guests and the report that I will refer to shortly will be able to expand upon these types of wrongs and with a series of recommendations how to resolve these wrongs. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's your thought about that, Lady Chelsea? What's your thought about this?
We had the same kind of experience where I was just like, it wasn't like in history books and stuff that like Asian and Black people were involved in the war. So it wasn't really a thought. I think if anything, there was maybe like one picture and like a little sentence, a paragraph to say, okay, these people in the war as well. And it was kind of like skipped over. Like it's not in my mind. Maybe it's wrong to say. It's kind of weird for me to think that people other than white people are kind of in the war. And so it kind of shows what they've done. But to me, in my mind, it's like still kind of weird. I haven't really seen that many pictures of like a diverse army. So yeah, it's quite upsetting as well that I think not only have they been left out of the books, but out in the like statues and stuff like that. There's nothing, the name's not on anything. It's quite horrible, actually.
Thank you. And that's a, you know, for the mouth of babes, you know, she said it's quite horrible, actually. You know, no, it's true.
Yeah.
It's quite horrible, actually. You know, for it to lasted this length of time. You know, going up for 100 years. Can you imagine? Okay. And I note, of course, this is a blue government we have at the moment. Even you know, red governments, you know, didn't pick up on this. You know, so you know, right? But I hear you. But I hope in communicating these messages through this station that it will resonate with many who are listening to us today. Yeah? And thank you, Lady Chelsea, for that. Thank you. And I believe similarly, a few weeks ago, a memorial was created for Cherry Gross. She is someone who died as a result of police brutality, for all intents and purposes. Okay. In her home. You know, it was a horrific experience, and even though I wasn't there, but I was young enough for it to make an impression upon me. So I commend those who have been party to ensuring a memorial to Cherry Gross is founded, and that it is one of those symbols of brutality that we seek to change in the society. You should not fear for the police in your own homes. Wow. You know? It doesn't matter if you've committed the crime or not. And she hadn't committed the crime, I might add. You should not fear for the police in your own home. And most certainly should not die as a result of that. It's unacceptable behavior, and there is no way that I will give any excuse for it. Okay? So I commend those who are and have been responsible for that memorial. I salute them, and I say unto them, praise Jah, Rastafari. You know, let's our solidarity remain forever. Okay, and all those who are of who possess empathy and have a conscience also respond appropriately as well. Okay, we do not want that in this country. Okay, all righty. Okay, let me just also move forward, if I may. I want to also begin to allude to how we might go forward in taking forward the views that have been expressed in this interesting report. Okay, and I suppose I should name the report. Should I? Should I name the report?
Yeah, I think you should.
I pondered for a moment, but let's name the report whilst we're on the subject, but it is pertinent, and it's one that has had some interesting community and international commentary. The report that is by the Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities. Okay, and it's chaired by a man who I hold in some esteem, because as I said earlier on, our passion for our children and dedication to this goes back decades. Okay, Tony Sewell is the chair. Okay, and first of all, I want to keep reiterating, I honor his commitments to developing and helping those who are disadvantaged. Okay, either on account of their ethnicity or socio-economic position, to realize their potential. Okay, and as I said earlier, I've referred people to his organization, okay, Generating Genius, because I believe in what he sought and still seeks to promote. So I commend him for his determination. Okay. But of course, I have an interesting parallel in terms of our public life. And I should declare at this point that I'm also an elected councillor, but not for the party in power. I'm not going to quote political names in this program, okay? But nevertheless, I'm able to reach out the hands of friendship, those who share common parlance with us, okay? And I'm convinced that that's the only way in which progress is possible, okay? And in promoting common parlance with those who are of a different political party is an essential ingredient if society is to succeed. And I consider, therefore, Tony Sewell to be a brother, yeah, someone who's and alongside them, we are in arms in promoting the interest of our children, our communities, and we are defying the expectations of those who would seek to do us harm. Okay, so, and I see that we have him here. Tony, welcome. How are you? How are you?
Hello.
Very well. Hello, hello.
Oh, good. Can you keep talking? Didn't get your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think someone else is speaking.
I think someone else is on the line.
Oh, then just hold on there. Hold on there 1 moment there, Tony. I know I've got a caller on the line already. I've not officially opened the line at this point. Can I ask you, please, call up with number ending 9034? Can I ask you, you can stay on the line, okay, and I can take you first, but please, could you just mute your phone whilst I conduct the interview? Oh, that's okay with you. All right, if you could mute your phone. Thank you, that's yours. Tony, over to you. First of all, Tony, thank you for taking the trouble and accepting my invitation, our invitation indeed, for us to have a quick review of this interesting report. So thank you for coming. How are you feeling this morning?
Fine, really good, actually. Excellent.
And I hope, Tony, that at the end of the session, we hope that there'll be a deeper understanding of the issues raised in the report, and indeed way forwards. I think that's really is important, because this show is really designed not simply to discuss issues, but also to promote initiatives. Okay? Initiatives that seek to achieve significant changes, both in our condition and indeed to promote the interests of Britain as a dynamic, forward-thinking society. I think that's a reasonable term, isn't it?
That's fine.
There you go.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay. In that case, let's begin. And before I go into the report proper, I'm just going to invite you, and just make sure we are all on the same page. You may not have heard what I said about the War Graves Commission and its discovery that up to 350,000 soldiers, men and women from across the Commonwealth, both Africa, Caribbean, and Asia, were not recognised. Their names not included in the records. Okay. And I think you with me deplore what happened, and the Commission uses the term pervasive racism being the cause of this. I'm sure you'd go along with me that it was deplorable, and we welcome and look forward to the changes the Commission will make to ensure that those of our communities who are in the war are finally recognised.
I'm up for that, and that's what we say. I mean, the report doesn't actually tackle that specifically. It's got very specific remits. And if you ask me wider about that, of course, I would be with you totally, and that's something that I share. I did get a bit of the end of what you were saying, and of course, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Very good. And can I also ask you? And I should. In fact, I should again. I'm not sure if you heard what I said. That I'm also an elected councillor, but I'm not a member of the national government. Okay, but I'm also elected councillor. But I indicated just prior to your arrival that I believe that we are brothers in arms and indeed sisters here, really wanting to promote the interest of our communities, ensure that those young peoples who are suffering disadvantage can realize their genius. Okay, and I also want to, as part of this, recognize the generating genius in one of those initiatives which I've referred parents to going back some decades now, and I want to commend your determination and commitment to that cause.
Yeah, but just on that front, I'm not here in the capacity.
I know you're not. I know.
But that the work is on record, really, of what I've done. I don't really need here to even sound that I will refer to that. But thousands of Black children here and in Jamaica have really benefited from the work that we've done. Thousands.
And that's what I want. I want the audience to hear. It's your commitment and dedication to it. I know it runs into thousands. So I want to say to you, and if it had been said to you by people like myself, I want to thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for your commitment. Okay. And if I may just lastly, further recognition, would you also agree with me, as is what's happening in the US? The US has established a reparations commission to look into the injustices of particularly African Americans during that period of enslavement and Jim Crow, so that the rights can be put right, the wrong can be put right, and indeed compensation paid where it's appropriate. Would you agree with me that a similar exercise, if carried out here, would have some social benefit and help us to put particularly some of these history books right, but also identify those wrongs and seek to recognize them and seek to put them right? Would you agree?
I think there's merit in that, but when we get on to some of these recommendations, which I'm keen to,
not a problem.
They're also, if you think about it, they're in that spirit. They're in that spirit, but people haven't seen the recommendations, haven't read it. They've read what other people have said.
Absolutely.
And so you need to get into the chunk of these recommendations.
I've no fear. Don't worry, Tony. Don't worry. It's important to get the right context, you see.
So you'll see the spirit of what
I know you.
You'll see the spirit of what you just said is in there.
Excellent. Because there are, I should declare, I'm also a member of the Global African Congress and in support of the Reparation Commission UK, which is a conglomeration of reparations organisations here in this country. And of course, I also support the Reparations March Commission and their desire for a reparation commission. Okay, but that said, let's get into the report. Okay, because I've read the report no less than 9 times, Tony, in preparation.
You're doing well than most people.
Oh, so I gather. And the challenge, it does present some challenges, okay, but it's okay. But we're going to focus on the recommendations, okay? It's got the recommendations, of course, the base upon which government will follow through with actions, okay? So I'm going to ask my colleague here, who is of course Lady Kelsey, to put to you 2 initial questions, which are focused on your recommendations, and you might just obviously just note the headings and then your clarifying question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I should probably read out the recommendation just in case people haven't read it. So this is from the building trust part. So I was most interested by recommendation 5, which was to improve training to provide police officers with practical skills to interact with communities. So it says here to develop a strategy to improve the efficacy and implementation of the stop and search de-escalation training, ensuring a consistent approach is taken by all police force areas. So the question I had was, would you be able to kind of expand on that? Do you know what kind of strategy would be implemented into improving the force?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, straight away off the bat, we recognise that the interactions. I mean, this has come as a result, of the Black Lives Matter protest, and so we straight away are having recommendations that the police really begin to. I mean, it's really that point, that critical point, where you interact, particularly with young people, and make sure that you're treating them with respect. Particularly Black young people who may come to the scenario with a sense of distrust. And don't forget, what we've got here is a situation where, particularly the Black Caribbean community, I think someone's in the background.
Hold on. Can I ask the caller with the number ending 8201 to mute your phone, please? And all callers, if you come into the studio, please mute your phones.
Okay. I can't hear again. He's coming in.
Okay, I'll take it. I did now. Okay, it's done.
Right. Okay. So in a sense, what you've got here is a history going right back to the 70s of mistrust of a police force that was, proactively really going against the interests of young Black people. So, you've got a history there. And so therefore, it seems to me that we want to make sure that in the training of officers, that they understand and have the skills to interact. I mean, and this is almost a life skill. It's a skill that you've got to have. It's this idea of a service, not a force.
Indeed.
Yeah. And that's so the government of these are interesting ones, because the government now have got to put this in place. We've laid it on their doorstep, and so there it is. The training of police must be improved, and they must actually have better skills in terms of interacting with communities and different communities. Can I just add another thing to that? To make sure, people say, well, that's all well and good, but we still don't trust the police, and maybe rightly so. So we've got another one, which is about police wearing the actual cameras. Because the problem before was they could switch it off. I mean, if you know this, there was compulsion to actually have the cameras on. So now what we're saying is another practical recommendation inside there, that they've got to have the cameras on all the time, so that the interaction with any young person is always recorded.
Okay.
Here. Can I just ask a supplementary, Chelsea, on this one?
Yeah.
It seems to me, you and I are old enough, of course, you don't mind me saying that, Tony, to remember the Macpherson report.
Sure.
I recall very similar recommendations made in that report, and indeed in a number of reports, particularly here in London, when the Metropolitan Police Force was deemed to be institutionally racist. And indeed, training was at the heart of its reform, its transformation. Am I to assume that you've made that recommendation, which is effectively 25 years after the Macpherson report, because there's been insufficient progression? Or are you making it because the police forces refer to themselves as being forces, and as we say, they should be a police service? Because you're seeking to change their culture.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you've got to kind of constantly review this, and you cannot just allow the situation to sit as it is. And it's not necessarily saying blaming the police, whatever, but it's actually there. I believe legitimately that young Black people are complain about that interaction, and we should take that seriously. And police then should change. Can I say another thing? Macpherson we didn't have the police cameras in those days. When Macpherson did it, those cameras weren't around. Now we have the technology to make that work. And but they've got to turn it on, and police who do not turn it on, they're going to get in trouble for that. So that will be a record of that interaction. And I think that's that's important.
Thank you, Tony.
For the safety of our young people. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think we're all acknowledging that. And of course, just to qualify what you said a moment ago, we complain. We're complaining, if we are to complain, because of the disproportionate numbers of myself included that were stopped and searched and humiliated on the high street. You know, the numbers speak for themselves. Yeah, they speak for themselves. So it's not a complaint. It is actually highlighting a deficiency in the service, and therefore the issue of racist behaviour or stereotyping is uppermost in our mind. But so I concur with you. The cameras will allow us to see it for ourselves, okay, and might moderate some officers' behaviour. Okay.
Can I say there's another thing? I mean, we keep going with this. It doesn't stop there. We also have recommended that the community, and there's one here that's particularly around, community interaction around this. So that in fact, the actual sense of accountability is there for an actual community group to continually be able to bring to account the officer that's in charge. So, for example, the chief officer continually would have to have interaction with a community group to go over the amount of stop and search in the area, to monitor this, and they themselves have to account for this. So it's all about accountability and making sure that happens. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tony.
Wait a minute. It doesn't stop there. We have to stop there.
I know. I'm going to stop you there for the moment.
One more. It's important.
Tony, I'm going to stop you there for the moment. I'm keen. Sorry, Tom. I'm going to stop you there for a moment. I'm keen for Lady Chelsea to go to the next recommendation title. Because I want to make sure we cover a number of areas quite quickly. I know you're limited for time. All right. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, so the next one was for promoting fairness. And the one I saw was the recommendation 8, which was advance fairness in the workplace. And I'll just read it out for anyone who hasn't read it. It says, develop resources and evidence-based approaches of what works to advance fairness in the workplace and which are readily available to employers. Just want to explain, what does this mean exactly?
Well, I mean, in a sense, the issue is about, we have some good numbers now on more Black young people getting into university, doing well, and then the point is they access jobs. But the problem you're going to find, a lot of people, maybe your callers will tell you this, is the issue is around promotion and progression in those workplaces. You know, what is happening there in terms of getting people, up the ladder? Because I think that's really the key point. Yes, there's an issue about access, but there's a key issue about promotion and in their workspaces across the piece, even in the public sector. It's not just in private. And I think what we're suggesting here is that companies themselves, I mean, we like this notion of sponsorship. It's a notion where people will come in and sponsor you towards, that promotion. So someone is looking at you and really beginning to get a sense that you can do well. I mean, not just that. A lot of people, we found people gave evidence to say that they were in a workplace for a couple of years, they got disillusioned because they weren't promoted. So what's going on there? And so what we're suggesting is that companies, take this type of training seriously. And it's not just a bit of Black History Month here and there and stuff like that, but seriously kind of look at their numbers and talk about progression rather than just entry.
Okay.
And if I may, Rachel, just ask a further supplementary on this one. It was an interesting one. Again, it doesn't seem to be dissimilar to recommendations I've seen in the past. Why do you think government would take note of your recommendation versus early reports which have said much the same thing?
Let me tell you one of the things that they can do. They run something called the civil service, which is one of the biggest employers in the country. Now, once they've undertaken this recommendation, they have to make sure that happens on their own watch. That's what we're saying, yeah? So you begin the good practice at home. and then you make sure that that emulates outside. I do think also that companies increasingly, I think, are thinking about this area, but their ideas seem to be kind of stalled a bit. And so we want to really ensure that this is on. I mean, yes, look, some of these recommendations, you could argue that they've been around before, but if you're making, you know, government itself the example, the role model, then you know you really are in a different territory here, and I think that's one of the things that makes this a bit different.
Okay. I'm accepting that. Successive governments, regardless of their colour, have need to do more in this regard. So I concur, and we hope that this government will do better than previous.
Can I say another thing? It acknowledges. People will tell you that that's in the workplace. That is the stuck space, I think. So it's actually, this is more about the empathy with the community that they get into work and they can't progress. They can't get to those senior positions. What is holding them up in that? And we need some more accountability around that. And we need companies to be serious about that. And I think companies read this report and they do take it seriously.
Thank you. As I said, it's the report itself had some interesting challenges, but you most certainly were thought-provoking. Okay, and I might get to that later on. But let's go to the other section of your summary recommendations, to create agency. Okay, and I found particularly recommendation 17, to encourage innovation. Part is a new enterprise program to nurture talent and encourage innovation, targeted at aspiring entrepreneurs from underrepresented and low-income backgrounds from across the United Kingdom. Okay, now, this seems to me, again, to be one that I've seen before, okay, but what's different in this recommendation? How are you proposing government should tackle this? Should they throw more money? Are they going to change policies, or how are they going to monitor?
It's really a challenge mainly to enterprises and to it's not only government but to also banks, etc. I mean, one of the banks have come on board already to say they're going to do this, and one of the things we've noticed, and people at university will I mean, it's something that I was always frustrated with when I saw that the amount of startup companies, you know, new innovative startup, when you look around and you go into these little things, these people have already got networks to funds. They've already got the pathways to bring out their new ideas. And you rarely see Black groups of young entrepreneurs getting together and having enough enterprise, or enough money. They've got the ideas, but they've got the capital to make this happen. So the whole space of the startup space, particularly, I'm thinking of people about to leave university in particular, you know, just going out. They've got great ideas, but no money, no cash, no investment. So the challenge is really to banks in particular. And this is a signal to a lot of angel investors, etc., all those kind of corporates to get alongside particularly Black enterprises. And so what we've done is we've not only put this out, we've also challenged, there's one particular bank that's just going to do it anyway, yeah, and they're going to go in and they're going to go to universities and they're going to target those talented, particularly young Black entrepreneurs wanting to go out and say, right, here's the cash, you know, let's have a look at your idea, let's give you a sense of an encouragement and guidance, because it's not so much the money, it's the guidance as well, so that your ideas are realized. Look, let me tell you what really motivated me to do this, and you'll smile, and I do kind of, I must be very careful what I say here, because I don't want people going on the internet and say different things, but I was very frustrated by the fact that Black women were going in on the high street and going into these to the hair care shops and to cosmetic shops, and without being divisive here, they all were being served by Asian males in these shops. Yeah. Now let's look at and they were telling them about what weave to wear and what hair care stuff, that we were not in charge of the enterprise. Yeah. They just had to give their money over to, and it's to men, it's not even to a woman, it was to these men. And And so you imagine now if you and I decided that during Diwali we were going to set up a shop and tell Asian women what saris to wear. You know, it would just be unheard of.
Unheard of.
We seem to be locked into a kind of way in which that whole supply chain seems to have locked out millions of pounds. Yeah. Now, I would like Black women to own that enterprise and sell not only to each other, but to other people. But why can't they own that? Now, there's something going wrong in terms of the innovation and the money and the capital, so that those women can own just that part of the business, which is really selling to themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, we are of like mind on this one. It does sound quite ludicrous. I'm sure that most of my audience will concur with you. So well done for that. I'll ask you another question under the that particular heading, create agency. Undertake a support for family review. Undertake to investigate the actions to address the underlying issues facing families. The Commission has identified this as a significant contributory factor to the experience of disparity.
Right. Can I just roll some numbers here? Now, these numbers I'm going to roll to you has to have a heavy health warning, because I'm in this situation now where misrepresentation is everything that I'm having to deal with. Yeah,
I understand that.
However, let's just roll some numbers about the family here, and I put the qualification in that I do not think that single lone parents are the problem at all. And this is my interest. In fact, I don't think Black family style is the problem at all. People's circumstances change, I am never going to morally say that you must live this, father must be here, whatever. We're in a very complex situation around the family. However, within my own community, Caribbean families, the situation around lone families is quite interesting. 60%, 63% of the families are lone families. When it comes to African, it's 40%, and when it comes to Indian, it's 6%. Now, I do not think that it's the problem is not lone families. The problem is resources and support for those families.
Yeah, poverty.
That's the key issue.
Yeah.
Are they being supported? Are they getting to? Now, let me push this a bit further. I would argue that in fact and this is why this is called creating agency. We as a community have to empower ourselves. It's not about more of the state doing this and more. We have to empower ourselves.
Absolutely.
I do think that some of the problems that our children face, some of the issues in relation to school, are to do with the fact that basically, I mean, if I look at if I look at some Black women in particular, some of them do 2 or 3 jobs. I mean, how? I don't know how they do it. And it's not I don't want to go along and say you are this, you are that. Let the state help those women. Now you say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, one of the things we recommended, this is where this report is quite radical, and the government have had to say that they're going to do this, is the extension of the school day. So we recommended that the school day be extended. Now, if you talk to a lot of not mothers and fathers who are alone as well, not just mothers, they will tell you that recommendation is going to be powerful in their lives, because you extend that school day. And it's not a babysitting service. We're talking about in that school day, you're doing things that they do in private schools. You learn an instrument. You might learn a foreign language. You might do debating society. Yeah. It's not that our children just get thrown out at 3:30 and they're rushed out, put out on the street, and they have to fend for themselves. No, the school day will be extended. Yeah. That's going to help the capacity of the family, because those people will be able at least to then negotiate work and do other things and make it easier. The other thing is, I do think those families do need some real hard cash.
Yes.
Yeah, because it is poverty. And can I just say one thing? One of the problems we had in communicating this report to people was that we were never deniers of racism. Racism exists and we found it. Yeah. One of the problems we did find was the racial disparity was not only just landing on race, it was landing on poverty. Yeah. And I think that one of this recommendation, so it's a wonder the government are going to have to do, is how on earth could you protest against a recommendation that number one is extending the school day, and number two is going to give you real cash in your hands to help you, deal with your family situation, and that is what that recommendation is about.
Yeah, yeah. Can I just say in response to you, and thank you for that, because that's an interesting, illuminating response. It's an experiment I carried out in my school going back 15 or so years ago to extend the school day up until 6 o'clock, in fact. And you're right, it was primarily concerned with developing artistic.
Sorry, can I just jump in?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the motivation for this? This has come out of the supplementary school movement.
Absolutely.
That's where we got that. We deliberately took this idea away out of the supplementary school movement, and we said that, look, wait a minute, it wouldn't just be about the fact that, in some kind of way, the families, must find money, and do this in some kind of organic way and make it work. Extra hours education is something that my own community pioneered. Indeed. And we think the government should seek to emulate this. And that's the key to this thing. And so, what we want.
Would you agree with me then that they should seek to emulate, and I can accept that at least to a point? What about providing some of these supplementary schools with some of these resources? It may not be cash, but equipment in kind, as it were. But I know many of their schools have been run on a shoestring, really.
Well, that's
individuals, but they could do some help with additional computer equipment or artistic equipment, or indeed opportunities to liaise with potential employers and so on. What about those practical support?
This is, one of the things that I don't know if you've been beginning to get a feel now of these recommendations. These are practical things. These are real hard things that people want and need. We're not mucking about here. And I think one of the things that is interesting is that with this extended school day, government has to find some real hard cash in there. Those schools are going to turn around and say, well, okay, lovely, where's the money going to come from to do this? And it's exactly what you're saying. But I would want them to engage communities. I would want people in the supplementary schools to be running the extended school days, come in and be paid, not do it for voluntary, be paid to and that includes Black history, that includes all these other elements in there. So, yeah.
We're on the same page, don't we? We're on the same page, Tony. As I said, I read it.
Seems to me we're on the same page all the time,
Well, you're right. Maybe. I read it 9 times.
I can't see anybody not wanting this,
Well, hold on. I have to read the report. I read it very, very carefully. I suppose that some of the language used, it's what's caused some of the consternation. But I'm not going to get into that. I don't want to get into that just yet, because that's not appropriate for this particular show. I want to focus on the recommendations. Right. The recommendations are the base upon which, as I said earlier, government will take action. And I just want to address the last section, which is the achieve inclusivity.
Yeah.
Now, an important one, and I know many listening will hear this, recommendation 24. Disaggregate the term BAME. Stop using the aggregated, unhelpful term such as BAME to better focus on understanding the disparities and outcome of quite specific ethnic group. But I note, of course, Tony, that the Chancellor and indeed the Home Secretary, and these are for your own party, if I may say so.
My own party, they're not my own. What do you mean my own party? I don't understand.
Oh, well, okay. Well,
no, wait a minute. You can't just say that. I don't belong to a party.
Fair enough.
Where did you get? No, you've got. This is where we've got to be very careful. For the listeners are getting misrepresentations about myself and about our commission. I don't belong to any political party. And I think that you've got to be very careful what you say there.
All right, Tim. In that case, I'm not going to pursue, because I'm conscious of time.
No, you can't. You have to make it clear to your listeners that you've made a statement about the fact that it was my party. I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay. I'm not. In that case, I'm going to withdraw that statement for now. I'm interested in time.
And also, you want to try and understand the motivations of saying that, because it seems to me that there's an appearance here that somehow, we're in the reign of the government. The government are going to have to sweat over these recommendations.
Yeah.
These things are serious money in the back. And can I, there's one thing, although you're going to Bain, haven't gone to the first recommendation, which is probably the most important one of all, which is the one that says the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and we want them to be empowered, have extra powers to look at unjust racial disadvantage or incidents of racial discrimination. In other words, the racial watchdog in the country, we want them to have more power. We want them to have more teeth, particularly in the complex area of online abuse. Now, you've seen the government already saying they're going to take this on because we told them that. And we don't want Marcus Rashford and Ian Wright or anybody else to be continually abused online.
I agree.
And this is about tackling racism directly. So you've got the power organization being told that we want you to have more power, more ability to go after, and more ability to bring to book all those people who are indulging in racism in the country. Okay. So party. So
let's talk about the BAME. Let's get to the BAME, DC Advocate. Just explain why that recommendation's there.
Well, I mean, it's there because we've, the whole idea that you can look at, say, an Asian group. Let me give you one example we can look at from Black versus Asian group. A doctor in Harrow from an Indian background and a taxi driver in Bradford, who's from a Pakistani background, are worlds apart. The whole kind of money, income, culture, to sort of say they come under one group called Asian, is ridiculous. And to be honest, the other part of it that makes it difficult is we're looking even at the Black, Caribbean and African group, and we're seeing that their outcomes are different as well. So we need to understand why, and we can't be using these big generalizations when people's ethnicities and their outcomes and their money and their social outcomes are different.
So does that mean that you are asking government to describe us by our regional heritage, more recent regional heritage? I think you and I would first of all agree that we are both of African heritage, but indeed our families, our immediate families, are indeed from the Caribbean. Yeah. And we now reside here in Britain. And that would be the correct lineage, wouldn't it?
That's right. I mean, so that the term Black as a big generalization,
far too general. Yes,
it doesn't make, it's too general. It doesn't, and you can't really then do policy or understand what's happening to you with these broader generalizations. So it's just to be more accurate. That's all.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that. And as I said, we'll discuss politics another time. I really want to focus on the recommendations. I'm just conscious of time. I'm going to open up the lines. I hope that's okay with you. And I want to encourage listeners to ask your questions based upon the recommendations. I, of course, would not be entertaining broad statements or attempts at challenging the premise upon which the report was compiled. It is the recommendations which I'm concerned with, and it's these recommendations that are the basis upon which government will take action. And if you're not able to ask questions on the recommendations, then please, listen to others' contributions, okay? Right, so I'm going to open up the lines, and the number, of course, to call is as follows: 0203 481 5240. You're asked to enter a PIN number, which is 3707 33 43 97, followed by the # sign, the vertical and horizontal lines. And if you're viewing this by YouTube or Facebook, you can see the number on the screen. Now, I know we've got a number of callers who've been waiting patiently, and I'm going to take them in the sequence in which they came on. So first of all, caller with number ending 9034. Can I just ask you, first of all, to introduce yourself? Good morning to you. Caller with number ending 9034. I know you've been waiting for a while. Would you like to say something now? 9034? No? Okay. In that case, I'll go over to the caller who I had to mute earlier on with number ending 8201. 8201. Can you unmute yourself? You need to unmute yourself so you can speak. Number ending 8201. Oh, they're a bit slow here this morning. They'll wait for the last few minutes, okay? Again, caller number ending 9034. Are you with us now? Or 8201? You can unmute yourselves and you can now speak. Okay, in that case, whilst they are sorting themselves out, speak when you are able. I'm going to add a person to the call. And is that person with us now? With number ending 3098. Good morning to you.
Greetings.
Good morning to you. Who do I have on the line?
Glenroy Watson from the Global African Congress.
Oh, good morning to you. Glenroy, good morning to you. And as you know, we've got Tony Sewell, who's interesting report, and the commission which he chairs, of course, which you and I are very familiar with, and of course, and you know the commission's name, the Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities. I really want to take your questions based upon the recommendation, not on the report proper. That's another time, another place. On the recommendations. Do you have any questions on the recommendations?
I suspect, Mr. Motivator, that you will have some difficulty in that regard, because I'm sure Tony has alluded to the fact that there's been a very emotive response. But I do have some questions on the recommendation. But can I just say, Tony, I was very surprised to hear that it was the activity of African women spending enormous amount of money in Asian shop that motivate you for this report. I thought it was Boris. I thought it was Boris Johnson wish to change the narrative. I'm a trade unionist, Tony, and I've found
Glenroy, hold on a second. Glenroy, please. I need your questions. We have very limited.
Yeah, I'm getting to that moment.
Ask your question now, please. Ask your question.
That's what I'm doing, Mr. Motivator. I'm a trade unionist, and the idea that sponsorship would somehow negate what is clear and open racism within industry meant that would somehow stop African and other minority promotion within their industry seems a little bit far from tackling the real issue. I have three other things, Mr. Motivator, if I can just quickly reel them off.
No, before you do that, Glenroy, sorry, I really want to be really difficult about that. So your initial question is on the report where it's addressed.
The recommendation for sponsorship. It doesn't deal with the issue that has been holding African and other Asian people, other minority people back within industry. It's racism. It's not sponsorship.
I understand that.
Or lack of.
We can all have different opinions, okay? We can all have different opinions.
Well, I'm utilizing my experience as a trade union representative.
I know that.
This is not an opinion. I can provide you with statistics.
Hold that thought. I'm going to go back to Tony and ask if he's got.
Can I just say? Yeah. Can I just say I agree. I agree that it's racism. Absolutely. The sponsorship element is really a strategy that companies could use. One strategy, but I absolutely agree it is racism, and companies have got to face that and deal with that. And I don't. The report doesn't disagree with that at all. There's nothing in there that says that isn't. In fact, it points that out. So I just have to say 100% I agree.
Thank you. Glenroy, your next question. I'm giving you some liberty because the other two are rather quiet.
Okay, look, there are a number of things that need to be clarified, but I hope others will pick it up. Let me just focus on the suggestion that suddenly the idea of body camera, and clearly it would be a utilization of that, is going to deal with stop and search. The recommendation from the Stephen Lawrence report was that police should give a written explanation. I suspect, Tony, and you need to address this, the opportunity to say, turn your camera on, and then, oh, sorry, I forget, is not the same thing as giving that victim at the time a written explanation, and it will be substituted. So therefore, aren't you watering down the recommendation, which at the time certainly people believe it was worthwhile? Should you not just simply be supplemented with your suggestion of the camera? I have a lot more, but in respect of...
Can I say again? Absolutely agree with you.
There you go.
Absolutely agree. I think that we've got there. I mean, maybe I didn't say it to you, but I mean, to be honest, we're on the same page here. That also, I think they should have written explanations and the camera as well. And it is a supplementary thing, but I do think the camera has been is a powerful tool, and it sometimes almost acts as a kind of almost the police have to think twice now about what's going to happen here. So no, I absolutely agree. And all the recommendations that the Lawrence report was saying, we concur with as well. There's nothing in here that's contrary. We're just adding, and enhancing what is there. And our sense is that I absolutely agree. In which
case you may have failed to carry it. Well, I'm not going to make it a question, Mr. Motivator, because I want to depart, because I know that the recommendation by a number of organizations has not been taken, but they're listed in the report, which is, I think, let me say unfair to be polite. But I really think at the end of the day, it is not a report that is meant to enhance anything for the benefit of those people in this country who are at the sharp end of racism. So, Tony, I like the way you and Martin are saying we're on the same page. I don't think I am on the same page unless we examine the whole page, and I'm not able to do that in the short time I've had. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm in agreement with everything you just said. And so would the commissioners, and there's nothing in this report that disagrees with that.
Okay. As I said before, I read the report on 9 occasions, and I had to in different mindsets in order to appreciate it. And I found in my world that listening carefully to people's opinions is vital if we are able to build a worthwhile society. The fact is that far too many people don't listen to each other and therefore have built up a completely erroneous picture of the other person. And whilst you do most certainly challenge, I think that's a healthy exercise in a democratic society. Okay, but a democratic society without individual challenge is no society at all. It's simply dictatorship. So there you are. I wonder if these other two callers who are on the line, 9034, wishes to say anything. If not, I'm going to, or indeed 8201 wishes to say anything. No, in that case.
Yeah, Martin,
yes.
Motivator.
Oh, good morning. Who do I have on the line?
It's Brother Akram.
Oh, good morning to you, Brother Akram. Have you read the report in question?
No, I have not really. No, I have not.
Okay.
Basically, I'm calling about something else. Before I wanted to speak before you brought your guest on.
I see.
But,
I'm not taking other issues right now, though.
But the fact is, I mean, well, you had the McPherson report and whatever they're recommending now, but as far as I see, it's not going to change anything for us as a people. And, I don't think much of this will change anything for our people.
Okay.
Can I come in? Can I come in with that? This idea that we're not going to change anything, can I come to what I think is recommendation 11?
Yes.
And this is very relevant given the COVID situation. Now, we want to establish an office for health disparities. This has never happened in Britain before. Now, the caller, I don't know if the caller knows anybody who has sickle cell or prostate cancer, which 1 in 4 Black men have. Yeah. Also, there are issues around obesity, and also there are issues about communicating health issues to our communities. Now, we do not have in this country at all anything that specifically will help. The other issue, which is even more pertinent, is the amount of Black women who die while they're having birth. And also the new statistic that's come out about the amount of miscarriages, again disproportionate for Black women. Now, we have never had in this country an agency that, number one, dedicates itself to looking at those particular medical outcomes and actually comes up with solutions. What we've got is a problem, and I'll share this with your listeners, because I don't think some of you in the medical field will realize this, is that when it comes to research, the people who actually come up to research medicines and actually new outcomes in diseases, there are very few ethnic minorities and very few Black people involved in those health kind of research. So in effect, what we're getting are medicines and outcomes that are based on the wider population, and we're taking those pills because we're not involved. So what we've decided is that enough's enough. We want, and the government are going to be committed to this, I know, an Office for Health Disparities that specifically has the money, the real money, to go after. Let's finally get this issue about sickle cell dealt with and research it. Let's really get Black men to really begin to tackle this issue. All of us know a Black man who has had prostate cancer. We want to end that. So the idea that this is not going to make any difference, literally, believe me, once this office is in play, Black people and Asian people, their lives will be extended, their lives will be better.
Well, I think it'll be, as I say, my best friend died of sickle cell, so I understand what sickle cell is and things like that. But what I'm saying is, look, we have the Hospital for Tropical Disease. They have been studying us for many years. Okay, so it's not that they don't know what our problem is, right? It's not that they don't know what our problem is. They studied us. They know us probably even better than ourselves. So, so why have they not bring up things that would?
Hold on there. Hold on there. Yeah, totally.
It's because that particular outlet, and I mean, it's well known, it's respected. It's not looking specifically at the issues facing this community in the UK and looking at particularly what we talk about health campaigns around communities. Let me give you a couple of them. Diabetes, UK. Heart disease. We spoke to a number of these agencies whose job it was to try and actually come in and help in terms of those outcomes. They put their hands up and says, we can't engage Black communities. We don't know where they are. We don't know how to deal with them. We have no idea. And so, what we're saying is that that's got to stop, because if diabetes is an issue in our communities, and if we haven't got an agency able to then communicate those health messages to our own communities, that's a problem. One of the reasons why we've been stuck with this whole issue of COVID and also the vaccination is that we never had any agencies that are able to go past the Facebook crazies and all those kind of nonsense around the anti-vax thing and communicate to our community properly about taking those, all the messages are really around health for our communities. So, I mean, it's not, it's wider than just somebody in a lab trying to work out some tropical disease. It's more specific than that. Okay. So I say again that you can't be cynical about this. We are going for solutions that will make a difference.
Here. All four solutions. But Akram, I believe you. Yeah.
I think. Well, as I said, I mean, we'll wait and see what the outcome will be. But I said it would be good if they listen to us and they do take our thing on point. But as I said, mean, the way I see these people, they don't.
We're judged by our performance, actual performance. But I can thank you for that call. I'm going to go over to Lady Chelsea. She has a question for you, Tony.
So I just wanted to quickly go back on the whole police thing, because I know that a lot of people will probably be skeptical about the body cameras. Do you know what the consequences of a police officer not having a camera on for any reason would be?
We want them to be fired. We want them to be fired instantly.
Okay.
Absolutely. We don't want anybody on the force like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Unambiguous language. A police officer who turns off his camera whilst in interaction with a citizen, if that police officer turns off the camera, what Tony said is that police officer should be fired.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Unambiguous language. I'm there with you on that. As I said, it's taken a while to read the report and I fully understand it. I understand where you're coming from, and I completely agree. Can I ask you, if I may then, assuming that the caller on 8201 still wishes to remain silent, anyway, such is life. I wish I could do this, but never mind. I want to go back to the Achieve Inclusivity heading. The Making of Modern Britain, Teaching an Inclusive Curriculum. Produce a high-quality teaching resource through independent experts to tell the multiple nuanced stories of the contributions made by different groups that have made this country the one it is today. I've found that, because of my background in public life, to be a really potent recommendation. I believe I understand what you mean, but can I ask you just to expand upon that recommendation 20, please?
Well, obviously, I mean, this is my favorite, because I'm from an education background, and so you know where I'm coming for this. I taught in Jamaica and in the UK. In fact, at one point I was teaching in both places at the same time, almost. And it was a strange experience, because one year I taught in the UK to a predominantly Black Caribbean in Brent. I used to teach there. This is years ago, back in the day. And then I taught in Jamaica. and it was a really interesting experience, because I had the same age group. And my Jamaican class totally were far ahead of my UK class.
Yes.
And they had less resources in there. And one of the things I noticed, I taught English, and so to the both groups, was that the Jamaican children, the way in which the Jamaicans were teaching history was really interesting. They didn't dodge slavery. What they did was they said, look, we know, and they taught the children that, look, the UK is built on the backs of us, Bristol, all these people, Liverpool, all these places are built on the back. So no doubt about where the money was going, However, what they did was, and I used to really cry with this when I used to do it, you open up the old slave ledgers and you see next to the pig, the goat, then you see a human being. Somebody hate the word inverted commas. They used to, this is the new normal word, so be careful what I say on it. Sambo, they used to use, that's a common word they used to call us, And what these people were the same as the animals and the corn and everything. So what the Jamaicans did in the schooling system was they said, no, look, we resisted slavery. We even in the core of the inhumanity, we actually developed our own religion, dress, dance, food preparation. We managed to preserve our humanity within the humanity.
Indeed.
So what you have there, and we have a rich, we have social historians in the Caribbean now charting, the life of these people. It is not to glorify slavery. It's actually to say that these people were not animals. They were real human beings. And they had and I love Bob Marley's redemption song, because he hits it when he says, "Oh, pirates, yes, they robbed I and sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. But my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward this generation triumphantly. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom?" Now he's talking about slavery there, African slaves, doesn't what they are, how they retained the powerhouse of their imagination. because this is what they couldn't take away.
Indeed.
And this led them to resist slavery and retain their culture. And so Jamaican kids, in a sense, Jamaican young people have that sense that they can go into that experience and know their ancestors were not animals.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And what? So here's the practical recommendation coming.
Okay.
I'm going to ask CXC if we can have the curriculum.
Explain what that means. The acronym.
CXC. Sorry. CXC is the Caribbean Examination Council. Yeah. That runs the and I want us to literally, and we've asked the Department of Education if we can digitalize that curriculum and bring it to the UK. And then what we do with that curriculum is it's not only going to be just for Black Caribbean children, it'll be for all children in the UK to understand this experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So no longer can we say, oh, the problem we have is teachers in our schools are kind of nervous about dealing with slavery. They don't know what to do with it. Yeah. So what we will do, we'll give them the stuff that they can plug and play and they can share with their children. And that's the powerhouse of this kind of curriculum.
I can't disagree with you. I mean, total agreement. But of course, our history, Tony, of course, goes back long before the period of.
Can I make a remark about that? Because I think that people think that the history of Egypt and the history of Africa isn't going to be something which we're not going to deal with. Of course, we want that, but people must understand that the Caribbean has a history. Absolutely. We shouldn't be ashamed of we should be ashamed of in the sense that the only
Are you not in the comment? Obviously not, because I'm talking to you.
Sorry, caller with number ending 5817. Can you just be quiet for a moment, please? Sorry, Tony.
Yeah. Go ahead. What it is that the shame.
Oh, sorry, one moment. I'm going to mute you, 5817. Then you have to unmute yourself when I call you.
Yeah, I think the shame is not on us. The shame is on the people who did that enslavement. That's where it should be. And we should be able to go in there and look at that history. And that's why I think my Caribbean class walked around the world feeling they ruled the world. They did, and my class in the UK felt, a bit different about life. And I do think that teaching is important.
Thank you. And having been involved with teaching myself for a good few decades, I completely concur with you. But of course, if I may say so, what I don't see in the report, because whilst you are addressing the institutionalized racism that still pervades parts of British society, there isn't a recommendation in the report that helps British people, English, Scottish, Welsh, and Irish people, to overcome the imperial propaganda they've been exposed to all their lives.
No, there is. Let me challenge this.
Okay.
This is
give me an example.
The making of modern Britain really does mean that it is an inclusive curriculum. So those challenges will be there for sure. That's what we want. I mean, it's not just. I mean, that whole, I said to you before, that whole idea of how communities were built and how they used slavery and colonialism to build up their own cities, places like Bristol and Liverpool, will be there. I mean, it's absolutely there. And the other thing is, for those communities also, they need to understand that at the same time, there was a white working class that was being sent up chimneys,
absolutely,
and down, and suffering in factories as well. And that history needs to be taught.
But Tony, I just want to put one more time on this point, because really, I believe this is the nub of this. Because of course, we talk about creating commissions for disparity in health and education and so on. Absolutely, we should do all that, because we need to bring into light of day what is the real experience. The disparities have been caused by attitudes that are formed by English, Scottish, Welsh and Irish people whilst they were children. And I'm keen to see a report that talks to with traditional English, Scottish and Welsh and Irish persons about the attitudes they form of peoples of different ethnicities. But of course, until that community sees itself for what it really is, change is not possible. We're always going up a very steep hill. If you say I'm wrong, that's fair enough. But my analysis of the situation is that your report, as the previous report, was simply a reaction to the pervasive racism that pervades this society. And what we need to do, therefore, is get to the source of it. And if the source is the old imperial propaganda that seeks to place one person above the other and therefore treat another as if they're less than, then it's that propaganda that we should seek to counter through education or other means. Are we in agreement on that?
Yes, we are in agreement.
Okay. Because otherwise, you and I, our children will be having the same conversation in 50 years' time, and that would be terrible. That would be terrible. I'm going to take the last caller with number ending 5817, and I'm sorry I had to mute you. You now need to unmute yourself. Caller with number ending 5817. If you could unmute yourself. I know once I mute them, you see, I know they find it difficult to unmute themselves. So there you go. Oh, 5817? Or are you going to unmute yourselves? Okay, I'm sorry. I know once I do that, it does happen. 5817, you can call back again if you want to come into the studio. I'm just conscious of Tony's time. I'm really grateful, Tony. I realise, thank you. I know, and we've only got 15 minutes left for the show as well. But 5817, I'll give you another chance to unmute yourself. 5817. Oh, that's my fault, but never mind. I think I recognise the voice, you see, but never mind. Can I just say in conclusion, Tony, what crucial message you'd like the listeners and community or observing this interview, what are the crucial messages you want to communicate to them?
Can I just say one crucial message that I'd like to communicate? Can I just give you a real example of racism that I came across the other day? Mm-hmm. A young doctor I know, she went her first day working in the hospital. You know, black woman coming into excited, and she goes.
Forgive me, Tony. The call has just come back. 5817. Good morning.
Greetings and good morning. Can you hear me now?
We can, yes. I'm sorry I had to mute you. We've got very little time, and I'm really going to press you to sort of focus your questions on the report recommendations. Want to introduce yourself first of all? Who am I speaking with?
Greetings, I'm Sister Mel.
Good morning, Dave.
I'm a trade unionist. I'm also part of the Global African Congress.
Very good.
And I wanted to direct my question at Tony in regards to how does your recommendation improve the working conditions and the treatment of Black women in industry? Basically, we're talking about the policing of our hair, our tone, our over-sexualization of our bodies, and the discrimination that we continue to face. Okay. I've been in the industry for over 20 years in a particular industry, and my son just asked me the other day, how come you're not a manager yet, Mum? Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting question, because I'd like to know how your report addresses this disparity and discrimination and racism I face on a day-to-day basis at work.
No, thank you, Sister Mel. Let's ask Tony to respond.
Very quickly, I mean, I would say that the first recommendation is clear as well. That we want the. I mean, if it's a direct issue of racism, the first recommendation, Equality and Human Rights Commission, be given more powers to go in directly into the workplace where this discrimination is happening and actually prosecute, not just change practice, prosecute. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the frustrations a little bit about people not reading the report and reading the recommendations is they don't realise that. I don't think the government realised in the end what they've done here, because the thing is out, the genie is out of the bottle here. Absolutely. Because they have to now give this organisation more powers than it's ever had to go and exactly prosecute what the caller was just saying. You know, they do have powers now to do some of that, but they don't have resources. They say they can't get around to get to the number of cases. But we're saying that they should have enough resources to do this, particularly the online abuse that Black people are facing. You know.
Thank you, Tony. And maybe later on we can talk about another time. We can talk about the campaign to increase the powers of that particular organisation.
It used to be called the CRE, but now when we got rid of it, in a sense, we took away the racism element in there because it had to do so much. Human rights. We didn't get. We lost race again, and we said no. We want to bring race back, which comes to my little story about my doctor, because this is where I want people to understand that people think we don't understand racism or we're not compassionate with it.
Before you do that, I'm sorry to interrupt you again. As we've got a caller on, Sister Mel, you heard the response to your question. And in other words, the Equality and Human Rights Commission should be given greater teeth, far more resources, so we can proactively seek out these injustices as a way of defending the rights of women and others, of course, in the workplace. Is that a satisfactory response for you?
No, it's absolutely not a satisfactory response for me. I'm not the only woman going through this, and these commissions can't be set up in these situations when they're not actually finding trade unionists and actually understanding what the actual problem is. I deal with the casework every day, and I deal with it in my own personal life, on an everyday basis as well. We need to be contacted, we need to be spoken to, and we need to be listened to. They can't just set up things independent of us when it affects us. There's nothing for us without us. That should be what is,
I agree with that.
The thing that goes forward.
Sister Mel, I'm just conscious of time. I think Tony's got that particular point. Tony, go ahead.
I absolutely agree with the caller, and I think that within this recommendation, I would expect that the new resource, Equality and Human Rights Commission, would have resources and powers to contact trade unions and through that prosecute the cases, because they're the agency that can really bring this to book. We're working with trade unions. So I absolutely agree with them. I agree with them. Can I finish my story? Because you're not allowing me to finish.
I'm getting there.
No, because actually I will jump off now, otherwise, because I've got.
Hold on a second. Thank you for that call. I'm not going to take further callers now. We're going to conclude. So I'm now going to give Tony the opportunity to make his point. Here we go.
Yeah, I was just saying. Just to end here that. Look, I don't pretend to know and be able to speak on behalf of anybody, really. We just took the evidence that was in front of us. The Race Disparities Unit had this data which it collected, and which is the first time Theresa May was in power. The data on race and disparities was in one place, so we were able to examine that and then talk to people on the basis of that. And we've come out with recommendations. My poor doctor in that hospital, the first patient she went to was a white patient, and she said she didn't want to be treated by a Black doctor. Wow. And you imagine your experience, first day of working, going home, and what her seniors said, well, we bet, because the problem is the hospitals are obliged to treat the patient. They can't say no. So she had to go away and treat somebody else who would welcome her. Now that is outrageous piece of racism that is real. And what I want to try and appeal, it may not work, is for people to not listen to some of the misrepresentations around this report. And you've read it now 9 times, which is fantastic. And to sort of really understand that we did find racism in our findings. We did find it. It definitely is there. It exists. Like Mel says, it exists in the workplace. We definitely found it. And we've come up with some practical recommendations to try and address it.
I agree. And the necessity for me to read not a number of occasions was, of course, to filter out all the propaganda I'm exposed to when viewing a report of this nature. And that's why I was confident enough to make contact with you. And say, well, look, let's talk about this. You represent the diversity that is the African Caribbean communities here in Britain, and we all can't make the same expression at the same time. It is our very diversity that is our greatest strength. So, and I respect the fact that you've come along, you've responded to our questions, and I believe you've responded well to our questions. You've not shied away in using the term racism exists and we need to combat it. And you've also acknowledged my key point on the fact that if it does exist, yes, we need to respond and defend ourselves against it, but also those who are perpetrating it, they need to be directly addressed. And unless they are directly addressed, 50 years time, I'm sorry, Tony, there's another report will say much the same thing again, because Britain's imperial past has yet to be tackled. And there needs to be a commission on Britain's involvement in the transatlantic slave trade and the effect it's had subsequently on Britain's culture and traditions, and therefore its attitude to other peoples and how British people see themselves, which is at the core of the problems that we've elucidated today. But Tony, I want to thank you. Thank you for coming along.
So, thank you.
I hope we could do it again, because there are aspects of the
absolutely.
I'd love to
do it again. I mean, I'd love to do. One of the things I'd love to do with the callers is to really help us with this curriculum. And yes. Because this is a chance now for us to. We can't say we have the opportunity now to really change the curriculum in the schools.
Well
and
done.
The government are committed to it. They've got no choice now. They know where, as I said, the genie is out. So let's talk and let's have some input into it.
Thank you very much, Tony. I wish you well, and I hope you speak to those who've spoken in contrary terms about the report. I suspect they haven't fully read it, or if they've read it, the interpretation of some of the words is maybe the question, and maybe a bit of reflection here, why it is that the UN could even speak in contrary terms.
I don't know what was going on there. I have no idea.
I don't understand myself either.
About something, because you've read the report 9 times, and so it is what it is.
I hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good day to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Lady Chelsea.
Hello.
There you go. Tony, he responded to our questions. What was your impression? We've got a minute or so. What was your
yes. I think on a basis, it was nice to hear that he agreed with a lot of what I feel like our community would want, bringing up a lot of, the points, Black women, stuff like that, making it clear with the body cameras, which I was unsure of how things would, the consequences would be. He answered every question. He didn't, like you said, didn't dodge anything. So I think it was a positive conversation.
Yeah. It is interesting, because of course, not until you speak to the man himself, I've known him for a little while, going back years, and by reputation, of course, for some time, and to read the report, but more important, to read the recommendations. Okay, there's a lot we could do with this report. There's a lot we could do with this recommendation, and we could use it as a campaign tool to change some aspects of key institutions that impact upon us. Education is one, the police force is another, health is another that we focus on, and industry and career opportunities and development is yet another. Okay, and he said himself, it does seem ludicrous, and I've said it here on more than a few occasions, it does seem pretty odd to me that the vast majority of Black or African women that I encounter who are buying hair care products are buying it from Asian men.
All the time.
I don't understand that. I don't blame Asian men or the Asian community. It's our fault, It's our fault. That's our fault. We've got to take responsibility if we want to change. But this is good, though. This was really good debate, and I know some people felt that it was getting too easy at time. I think they wanted us to exchange expletives or whatever, but
I think his attitude wasn't going to take that anyway. He was a bit defensive in the most respectful way. But
at least we've had an open debate, open discussion, okay?
Yeah.
And I believe he was quite unambiguous in describing racism where it was necessary.
Yeah, and I think maybe the main issue is like I believe the last caller said was having independent bodies having conversation with them and doing things with them instead of actual people on the ground working. I think that is maybe the main issue. People, actually average normal people, aren't feeling like there's been spoken to. So I think maybe that is something that needs to be done, so that maybe we're not so against the report and it's not coming up in such a negative way. So we're like involved in our own change and development.
I totally agree. I totally, absolutely agree. And I suppose what we need to do, I suppose, as a follow-up, is speak to some of these agencies who say they've read the report and seen the recommendations and have publicly condemned the commission. And I think that will be an interesting series of interviews to understand that dynamic. You know, and I believe that often. People believe that to combat racism, or the language of racism, combating racism, comes from a single line of inquiry, a single doctrine, as it were. I disagree with that profoundly. In order to combat these complex problems, you need a multifaceted approach to them, and there is no single way to tackle this matter. But nevertheless, it is a challenge. But it's now 10 o'clock. I suspect the engineer will come in shortly. But this was an interesting, stimulating experience. And well, let's see how we perform in future programs. And if I may, how do you feel about this yourself? You are blossoming, if I may say so. Huh?
No, good. I mean, I feel like he touched on a lot of things that I was interested in, and was a lot more open with the answers and saying things I think a lot of people wanted to hear. So I think it was in the right direction. Excellent.
And we look forward to you fronting a program with centers by young people. We're looking for...
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. I'm more open now.
Oh yeah.
We can do that.
So these interactive programs where you've got a broad range of opinions all in one space, as opposed to a single line, a single doctrine, which is very bad, you know. A plant which is a clone means that that particular plant will die out in no time at all. Its diversity is our greatest strength. That is what marks us out as being African peoples, you know. So well done to you. Well done for you for being a listener and now a co-presenter with me, okay? And I look forward over time for you fronting one of these programs on issue of concern to yourself, okay?
Yeah, that's fine. A bit nervous, but I'm interested to do it.
I'm now going to hand over, if I can, to the next presenter. So I'm going to thank all those who are listening. Thank you for listening, and I hope you found this program interesting. Good day to you. Stay safe and happy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.